Shabbat Shalom, Yasharala. Welcome to this Torah portion. We are on week 31, covering Leviticus 21 through 24, verse 9. Let's start off with a prayer, shall we? Heavenly Abba, high in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So we come to you on this day that you have set apart, Heavenly Abba, seeking your word, seeking to be corrected if need be in all of our ways, to be made perfect and molded in your image. Please continue to show your grace and mercy upon us, that you may give us this opportunity that we may come to you and be like you, Heavenly Abba. Send the Ruach to discern the message that we are about to receive as we read your word line by line. Allow it to be written on our hearts, Heavenly Abba. Barak your name by Hashem Yeshaya, we pray. Amen and amen. All right. We have the menorah as the image. We will, at the very, chapter 24, it talks about lighting the menorah, but it also simply represents the 7 feast days that is going to be the focal point of this Torah portion, with Leviticus 23 being read of the Shabbat and the annual feast day. Without further ado, let's begin week 31. Chapter 21, verse 1.
Leviticus 21. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron's sons, the priests, and tell them that a priest is not to defile himself for a dead person among his people."
Okay. As I'm reading through Leviticus again with y'all, I just want to make notice the way the book of Leviticus is written. It's written for every single person, but in every chapter, every section, it tells you who it is written for. Now I'm gonna, just show it what's up, because I talked about this before. Some people literally think everything written in the book of Leviticus, since it's named Leviticus, is for the Levites and Levites alone. But a lot of the commandments are told to the Levites to be the teacher of these words. But at certain times, it tells you, hey, what I'm about to say is for these people. And so right now, I got verse 1 to 9 is for a general priest, a Levitical priest. All of what we're about to read is about to be the requirement of holiness, as it says right here in the top, required for a priest. And then we're going to see when it gets to verse 10 to 15, then the rules are specifically spoken to for the high priest. So I'm just, like I said, I just want to make things clear. These instructions are for these individuals as we're going to read it. All right, verse 2. So a priest is not to defile himself for a dead person. Why? So before we continue, I'll go ahead, because we know Numbers 19:11, if he touches a dead body of any man or woman, they shall be unclean 7 days. So if you're a priest that are supposed to be dealing with holy things such as sacrifices, you can't be going around touching dead bodies, because it's going to make you unclean for a whole week, which means your duties for that week would have to be canceled. You would have to be put outside the camp where people that are unclean are at, right? So this is where we're at. Verse 2 now. Except
for his immediate family, his mother, father, son, daughter, or brother, or his unmarried sister who is near to him, since she has no husband. He is not to defile himself for those related to him by marriage, and so profane himself.
All right, so this is the difference. I'm setting you up so you can see the difference when we get to the high priest. A regular priest, when I say regular, this means someone that's not the high priest, right? cannot touch a dead body unless for the immediate family. And it says not for related by marriage. So I'm saying I'm pretty much talking about the in-laws and, brothers and sisters from your wife's family, not your actual wife. But so immediate family is all that you can touch as a priest if they are dead. But then obviously you still would have to separate yourself for those 7 days to make sure you don't mix the holiness with the unclean, right? Verse 5.
Priests must not make bald spots on their heads, shave off the edges of their beards, or make cuts in their bodies.
We saw this was spoken to for the people. As I said, we can see that now we're talking about reading about just the high priest. Priests must not make bald spots on their heads, shave off the edges of their beards, or make cuts in their bodies. We saw this just last week. Torah portion, Leviticus 19 at verse 2. I'm going to read verse 2 to set it up. It says, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel. So this chapter, it tells you, hey, Levites, teachers, these words are for all the children of Israel. And it's very similar. Some of these commandments are very similar for priests to regular folks. And then some commandments are just for priests. And we see here, obviously, this is because you're holy and we're separated clean from what is unclean and what is holy, right? Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shall thou mar the corners of thy beard. And thou shalt not make cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. So we see very, very similar commandment here, but this is for everyone. It's just being spoken clearly for the priest here. All right.
They must be holy to their God, and not profane the name of their God. Because they present to the Lord the offerings made by fire, the food of their God, they must be holy. A priest must not marry a woman defiled by prostitution or divorced by her husband, for the priest is holy to his God. You are to regard him as holy, since he presents the food of your God. He shall be holy to you, because I, the Lord, am holy, I who set you apart. If a priest's daughter defiles herself by prostituting herself, she profanes her father. She must be burned in the fire.
And reading throughout the Torah, we understand that we are getting laws that we do, or you will be cursed. And then there's laws that have higher punishments that are death penalty laws that if you break, forget a curse, you're about to die. But then we got the verse 9, a priest's daughter defiles herself by prostituting herself. She profanes her father, she must be burned in fire. I mean, man, there's levels to it. And we see when the Most High is just not playing around and prostituting your daughter, specifically from a holy man, aka a priest of the Most High, is not a game. I also want to make note because now that was the end of that was verse 9. So now we're about to go into the high priest. Verse 10 reads, the priest who is the highest among his brothers. So the high priest, right? Take note that a regular priest that's not a high priest, must not marry a woman defiled by prostitution or divorced by her husband. That these are the only things that the stipulations that is given right here. We're going to see that the high priest has higher standards. So let's continue with verse 10 here.
The priest who is highest among his brothers, who has had the anointing oil poured on his head, and has been ordained to wear the priestly garments, must not let his hair hang loose, or tear his garments.
We saw this with Aaron when his sons first died. So just going back to Leviticus 10:6. And then Moses said unto Aaron and unto Eleazar and unto Thamar, his sons, not uncover not your heads, even though specifically the commandment would be for Aaron alone, speaking towards the high priest. But neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, lest wrath come upon all the people. So this commandment is directly in line with verse 10 here. Cover your heads, like it says right here, or must not uncover his head. When it says not let your hair hang loose means you uncover it and your hair is out, or tear his garments. So rend your clothes, right? And that was also when we covered verse 10 of Leviticus. Just the story of Job came to mind when he shaved his body and tore his garments. This is not what high priests should be doing in times of mourning or pleading or fasting. Continuing, verse 11.
He must not go near any dead body. He must not defile himself, even for his father or mother.
Woo! Did y'all hear that? I told you I was setting y'all up. I was like, listen to the details. A priest can defile himself for his immediate family, and then he'll be unclean 7 days and, go about his way, do what he need to do, make his sacrifices, and then report back to duty. A high priest that has been anointed in office can't even defile himself for his mother or father. There's levels to this. Let's continue. Verse 12.
He must not leave or desecrate the sanctuary of his God, for the consecration of the anointing oil of his God is on him. I am the Lord. The woman he marries must be a virgin.
You see that difference? Let's continue.
He is not to marry a widow, a divorced woman, or one defiled by prostitution. He is to marry a virgin from his own people, so that he does not defile his offspring among his people. For I am the Lord who sanctifies him.
All right. So verse 13 to 15, all of the requirement for a high priest. It was just verse 7. A woman defiled by prostitution or divorced by her husband. That's it for a priest. And then verse 13 to 15, a virgin, offspring among his people, then widowed, and this is added on from the other one. The other one wasn't widowed. Widowed isn't divorced. That means your husband passed, right? So he's even saying a woman that has had any man, even if not divorced, is a no-no for a high priest. She cannot have ever been touched by a man for the person that holds the office of high priest. So high standards for that position. Very righteous, holy man you must be. There is no choice. All right, verse 16. And then we'll see, as the title says, for the last part of this chapter, restrictions against those with blemishes. And remember, this whole chapter is specifically speaking about the priest. So there is going to be restrictions for the sons of Levites that have blemishes.
The Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, for the generations to come, none of your descendants who has a physical defect may approach to offer the food of his God. No man who has any defect may approach. No man who is blind, lame, disfigured, or deformed. No man who has a broken foot or hand, or who is a hunchback or dwarf, or who has an eye defect, a festering rash, scabs, or a crushed testicle.
All right, just want to pause real quick. So the Aaron's descendants who has physical defect may approach to offer none. I mean, excuse me, I forgot. None of your descendants who has a physical defect may approach to offer the food. So they can't be the priest that does the sacrifices. And this is just the Most High being consistent. Let me see. Yes, Leviticus 3:1. And if his oblation be a sacrifice of a peace offering, he shall offer it of the herd, whether it be male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before the Most High. So if the Most High requirement of the offering is without blemish, then he's just going to be consistent and say, well, the person that's actually doing the offering has to be without blemish as well. So the offerings can't have any of these blemishes, and it is consistent with the person doing the offering as well. Romans 12:1, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto Elohim. So I bring up this verse just to say the consistency of the priests coming up, their bodies, their lives are presented as a living sacrifice. They do the will of the Most High. This is why the Levites gets the Most High's offerings. This is why they are his inheritance, because they literally live their life for the Most High. They are a living sacrifice. And so being a priest and presenting your body, your life as a living sacrifice, you got to be without blemish if you're going to be going to the altar. You have to be holy, clean, without blemish to come to the Most High's altar, which which Mashiach is all these things, right? This is why the whole book is based around the coming of the Son of Elohim. He fulfills all of these requirements. And also for verse 20 here, the last part here, crushed testicles. Deuteronomy 23:1, he that is wounded in the stones or has his privy member cut off shall not enter into the congregation of the Most High. So that's a big no-no. Specifically, we're reading about just the priest, but once again, congregation of the Most High is everyone. If you're doing that, obviously, if it's an accident somehow, some way, okay, if that happens in an accident, hey, I guess life is life. But if you do that on purpose, the Most High will cut you off. All right, so all of these defects, these physical defects, is a sign that you're not supposed to be presenting the offerings. It doesn't mean you're cut off from your people if you have some of these things are done by accident, right? If you're born with them or whatnot, that's one thing. That don't mean you're cut off from Israel. The Most High is not throwing you out, because let's read verse 21 now. Let's continue.
The descendant of Aaron the priest who has a defect shall approach to present the offerings made by fire to the Lord. Since he has a defect, he is not to come near to offer the food of his God. He may eat the most holy food of his God as well as the holy food, but because he has a defect, he must not go near the veil or approach the altar, so as not to desecrate my sanctuaries. For I am the Lord who sanctifies them. Moses told this to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites.
So as we see there, they're just not to be in the office of a priest. He's not putting them away because he's a dwarf or all the defects that they said, right? He even said they can eat of the most holy food. They just can't present it. And we're going to read this next chapter. It just is good for right now in the sense of the structure of the holy food. Leviticus 22:10, there shall no stranger eat of the holy thing. So no stranger shall eat of the holy thing. A sojourner of a priest or a hired servant shall not eat of the holy thing. I think did I do the verse before or after? I think right before this verse. We're going to read it next chapter anyway. It talks about only the family of the Levites partake of many of these sacrificial foods, meats they eat, right? And so that is what is being spoken of, saying they may eat of the holy food. Remember, this is still the sons of Aaron. They're still descendants of Aaron. They're just descendants of Aaron that can't be a priest. But the family of Aaron, the priest's family, can partake of the holy food, right? Not just the priests. A lot of the sacrifices, there's some sacrifices are, for specific individuals, but a lot of them they can share with their families. which we have gone over. Hopefully, you have your notes on all of these things that you can make sense of all of these sacrifices and rules because it adds up, right? All right, and I also wanted to read verse 22 and 23 in the Targums here. Chapter 21. Nevertheless, he may support himself with the residue of the oblations of his Alahim, which remaineth of the most holy and of the holy offerings. So, talking about people with blemishes, right, of the Levites. Only he must not enter within the veil, nor approach the altar, for blemish is in him. And he shall not profane my sanctuary, for I, the Adon, do sanctify them. Just thought it was written well and explained well. And that is chapter 21. That's interesting. That's an interesting thought, Shekinah. Like how the word is holy food, which everyone can partake, that is, striving in the priesthood, right? But not all can teach it. Not all can be a priest, but the families can all partake of the food. Amen. Amen. All right, restrictions against the unclean now. So this verse 1 through 16 is about the separation from clean and unclean.
Leviticus 22. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons to treat with respect the sacred offerings that the Israelites have consecrated to me, so that they do not profane my holy name."
All right, once again, the book of Leviticus, a lot is for the priests, but let's always pay attention to who this is being spoken to. Like, who is this for? Tell Aaron and his sons. Okay, let's continue now.
I am the Lord. Tell them that for the generations to come, if any of their descendants in a state of uncleanness approaches the sacred offerings that the Israelites consecrate to the Lord, that person must be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord.
All right, I know I spoke on this before about the very strict rules of the priesthood. I want to do it one more time, wrap it all the way up right here. I'm going to read verse 3 again. Tell them, who are them? Aaron and his sons, so the Levites. Tell them that for the generations to come, if any of their descendants in a state of uncleanliness approach the sacred offerings that the Israelites consecrate to the Most High, that person must be cut off from my presence. If anyone is unclean, goes to the altar to make an offering, will be cut off. We read the book of Leviticus, and it talks about the separation from clean and unclean the entire way through it. It gives us specific rules. This is the most strict base book in the entire scriptures. The point I'm making is that this book for the Levites, written for the Levites, these sacrifices, these altars are not to be played with. And I say that you would be condemning yourself if you were still trying to do offerings nowadays. Based on the text, and that's what I'm about to read in one last time, because next week is our last week in Leviticus. So, like I said, one last time before we finish the book of Leviticus, I want to wrap this up with a bow. Just how much condemnation will be coming upon you if you think you can just go and make offerings any way you want. We first read that this is to the Levites. Even though we're not in the Levitical priesthood, that's the point is that we're taking these instructions from the instructions given to us. We have no instructions for doing sacrifices any other way. This order of Melchizedek, you don't got no instructions to do sacrifices. So the only instructions you could be getting would be from this book. And this book tells you to not do it unless you're a Levite. First and foremost, you have to be without a doubt proven based on your genealogy, which you can't recover, that you are a Levite. So that's criteria number one. Number two is that you have to, just I'm going by based on what we're reading right now, not in any specific order. Number two is that you have to make sure you are clean. Now, in a world of uncleanliness, you simply going out and going into a store, I guarantee by the time you leave a store, you will have touched something that someone has touched that was unclean that day. You're not separating yourself from the uncleanliness of Babylon, of Egypt, of America, of the world. You go, you touch money that has been passed around. There's no separation from clean and unclean. All of what we read in Leviticus, anything you touched that was unclean, you were separated from everyone outside the camp. Look how much hard work the Most High was doing. You really think you're clean nowadays and you know you're clean when you're leaving your home and your home probably ain't even clean. Not to the standards that we're reading about in Leviticus, right? So like I said, I'm about to just wrap this up here. Let's continue. Leviticus 1:7, just making it this much more clear. Once again, the sons of Aaron. This is their jobs. You can't be a regular person doing this. You have to be chosen. You have to be chosen. The only time anyone should be doing a sacrifice today is because the Most High came to you and told you to do it. Because if you're going by the rules written in this book, you are a walking contradiction. You're talking about, I'm going to give praise and I'm going to sacrifice to the Most High, and you're going to do it your way, which is literally what the entire book keeps telling you not to do. So Leviticus 1:7, the sons of Aaron, the priest of the sons of Aaron shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. So even setting up the altar, the wood and the fire is the priest. You can't do it without the priest. Continuing, Leviticus 17, 3-5. Read this last week, just putting it all together now. What man soever there be of the house of Israel that killeth an ox, a lamb, goat in the camp, or that killeth it out the camp, and bringeth it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation to offer an offering unto the Most High before the tabernacle of the Most High, blood shall be imputed upon that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. In a nutshell, he's saying, if you're making your own sacrifices outside of the tabernacle, then you're doing it wrong. He's telling you there's no other place to do sacrifices. You don't have the tabernacle of the Most High this day, no matter where you live. If you have your own altar doing your own sacrifices, let's read together the last line. The last sentence, blood shall be imputed unto that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. You see what I'm saying? You're cursing yourself. Continuing, verse 5, to the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices, which they offer in the open field, even that they may bring them unto the Most High, unto the door of the tabernacle. And I read on a post before that says, well, this is different. These are free will offerings, peace offerings. This isn't sin offerings. Unto the priests, offer them for peace offerings. And I'm saying this because I've read this, I've witnessed this, I've seen videos, and people say things. It's just like, it doesn't matter. Where does it say for sin offerings alone? Reading is truly fundamental in this walk. If you're just going to say whatever you want, curse yourself, but don't lie and curse everybody else. But hey, they had it coming if they don't want to go check the scriptures and just listen to some numbskull just say anything they want to say online. But let's continue now. Deuteronomy 12:11. Then there shall be a place which the Most High your Elohim shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices. This is everything. This is what I'm saying. People over here are like, oh, well, we're not doing sin. Guys, where the place that he commands you, burnt offerings, sacrifices, tithes, which is also the free will offerings, the heave offering of your hand, all your choice vows which ye vow unto the Most High. Take heed to thyself that thou offer not thy burnt offerings in every place that thou seest, but in the place which the Most High shall choose in one of thy tribes. There thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, and thou shalt do all that I command thee. I mean, it's not even remotely close. The requirements you need to do it today, it's impossible to fulfill, which proves we're in a new priesthood. The Most High would not forsaken his people. The Most High never forsakes his people. There would be a priesthood today if we were not a new priesthood, without a doubt. 1 Kings 12:27. If this people, this is the story of the separation of the northern and the southern kingdom. And this is just the Deuteronomy 12 in context of the story. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Most High at Jerusalem, because that is the place of the tribes where the Most High commanded them, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. So this is just the context that they literally had to go to Jerusalem to do it right. They had to. This is why even when you continue the story in First Maccabees, they had to cleanse the temple and rededicate the temple to offer sacrifices at the place where the Most High told them to in Jerusalem. Still in the First Maccabees, and then even in the time of Mashiach, this is what's going on. They have to go to the place the Most High chooses. And if you are getting these instructions from this book, then be consistent. And that's it. And we're going to read later in this chapter of Leviticus 22 even more rules about acceptable sacrifices, even how to do the sacrifices, which people aren't doing. People going to the Whole Foods and Sprouts and buying a slab of meat. Like, guys, you got to butcher it. You have to use the blood. You have to take out the fat. You actually gotta do the sacrifices, guys. You can't just get a slab of meat and hoping that meat is clean and holy. But we about to get to that. All right. So all that being said, I just wanted to one last time before we finish this book, all at one time, give you a handful of clear-cut, impossible that anyone could be able to do sacrifices in a holy way today. Because I swear, I mean, they swear they could pull it off with all these instructions. They can still pull it off. But let's continue. We're going to read about even more instructions on that. Verse 3.
If a descendant of
Verse 4.
Aaron has a skin disease or a discharge, he may not eat the sacred offerings until he is clean. Whoever touches anything defiled by a corpse, or by a man who has an emission of semen, or whoever touches a crawling creature, or a person that makes him unclean, whatever the uncleanness may be, the man who touches any of these will remain unclean until evening. He must not eat from the sacred offerings unless he has bathed himself with water. When the sun has set, he will become clean, and then he may eat from the sacred offerings, for they are his food.
And we see everything about this is about being clean. Like I said, you got to be consistently clean to do these things. And then in verse 7, which all of this is honestly a summary of what we already been building on in Leviticus, right? And then in verse 7, when the sun has set, he will become clean. And then he may eat from the sacred offerings, for they are his food. This is, I'm going to start showing the comparison of Passover, how we are in the position of priest, because he's building us up to one day be the royal priesthood. Partaking of this priestly meat is required. There's people that, are vegan and don't want to eat the meat. Guys, did y'all remember when Moses approached Aaron and his sons and he was upset that they didn't eat the sacrifice meat? And then Aaron gave him a reasonable explanation of the sorrow and the passing and all of that of his sons, and some of the offerings was the offering for the sin of his sons. And then Moses was like, "Oh, okay, that's reasonable reason not to eat the meat." But not eating sacred meat, the Most High has given you. Go to that chapter. That's in the way Moses approached Aaron is exactly that. We are supposed to partake of that Passover lamb because it is sacred. He is bringing you into his fold. And this is what we're going to compare just the criteria of sacred food with Passover now. Exodus 12 is a chapter of the Passover, 6 and 7. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day at the same month. So obviously just put that verse there. We on Passover. The whole assembly of the congregation shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take the blood and strike it on the two sides of the side posts and the upper door posts of the house wherein they shall eat. I want y'all to think about the book of Leviticus. Every time they kill a sacrifice, what do? Don't they go and sprinkle the blood on the door? You get me? So the comparison, we got the evening, that the meal doesn't start until evening. And then they go and take the blood of the sacrificial lamb and they put it on the doorposts. The same idea of them sprinkling blood on the door of the tabernacle. This is a Levite ritual, and he what the Most High is doing for each individual family, he's sanctifying the lamb and the home with the blood of the lamb. It's exactly what we've been reading about all throughout Leviticus. Very cool that we get to partake of the Passover lamb. A very big deal. It's not anything should be overlooked about it. Very cool stuff here. Okay. Let's see. Let's continue now, though. Let's continue. Where are we at? Verse 10. Here we go. Verse 10.
He must not eat anything found dead or.
Oh, excuse me. We had one more verse here before I kept going. Leviticus 17:6. The priest shall sprinkle. This is the what I was talking about. Sprinkle the blood upon the altar of the Most High at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So they sprinkle the blood on the altar and they sprinkle the blood on the doorpost at times. So that was just a verse I was connecting with this right here on the doorposts. Okay, now let's continue.
Torn by wild animals.
Oh, wait a minute. Where am I at? Okay, verse 8, excuse me, I was off. He must not eat anything found dead or torn by wild animals.
Would make him unclean. I am the Lord. The priests must keep my charge, lest they bear the guilt and die because they profane it. I am the Lord who sanctifies them.
So this is written specifically to priests, but we see that it's not clean meat to eat meat from animals that die of themselves or that is torn by another wild animal and left to die, or the remains of whatever the animal left, right? And that's another thing. To obviously, we try to get as clean as meat as we can, but if we're not butchering it ourselves, we truly don't know what happened to that animal. We're just gonna do the best way we can by trying to get local butchers and try not to get big warehouses and stuff. But that's another thing that we just don't know. We do not know every time we eat a piece of meat if we are if it's an unclean piece of meat or not, unless you butcher it yourself. This is just saying there's levels to this. Verse 10.
No one outside a priest's family may eat the sacred offering, nor may the guest of a priest or his hired hand eat it. But if a priest buys a slave with his own money, or if a slave is born in his household, that slave may eat his food. It
So once again, we touched on this last chapter. This is reminiscent to Exodus 12 as well. It's that no one outside the priest's family may eat the sacred food. Well, if we extend that family to the whole congregation of Israel, which is what it is on Passover, this is the commandments, Exodus 12:43 through 45. And the Most High said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then he shall eat thereof. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. I mean, the consistency of this, right? No one outside the family, unless he is bought and circumcised, and now you own him. He is a part of your under your umbrella. So just very consistent with the Most High and what Passover actually is and what the Most High is doing for us. He is allowing our individual homes to be sprinkled by the blood that sanctifies us through the sacrifice and to partake as if we are in the seat of a priest. It is an honor that everyone should jump to if given if the opportunity is you're even aware of the opportunity, I should say, that you can be born again and be grafted into Yasharala, right?
The priest's daughter is married to a man other than a priest. She is not to eat of the sacred contributions. But if a priest's daughter with no children becomes widowed or divorced and returns to her father's house, she may share her father's food as in her youth, but no outsider may share it.
All right, so verse 13 is in a nutshell showing the idea of a woman in her covering. If a priest's daughter with no children becomes widowed or divorced, so she was with the person, but now she is not with their man anymore, and she goes back to her father. So she had a separate covering, so she wouldn't be able to eat under a separate covering. But once she's back under the covering of her Levitical father, and in a nutshell, this is 1 Corinthians 11:3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Mashiach, and the head of a woman is the man, and the head of Mashiach is Elohim. So whatever the woman is under is her identity. This is how it works. And I'm not going to read all of Numbers 33 through 9, but this is just the chapter of showing that identity of a woman being under her covering. The first one is the example of a woman being having a vow under her father's house, and that the father pretty much owns responsibility to allow the vow to go through or to not to go through to the Most High. And then that same blessing of covering is given to the husband with the same criteria of having permission to void or to allow her to proclaim her vow. All right, verse 14.
If anyone eats a sacred offering in error, He must add a fifth to its value and give the sacred offering to the priest. The priests must not profane the sacred offerings that the Israelites present to the Lord by allowing the people to eat the sacred offerings and thus to bear the punishment for guilt. For I am the Lord who sanctifies them.
And that's another thing as well, man. The priest must not profane the sacred offerings that the Israelites present to the Most High by allowing the people to eat the sacred offerings. This is Passover, right? And I've stressed this every Passover. You can't be Passover is not invite your friends feast day. That's more like tabernacles. Invite people over that's not truly in the fold, but are are interested. They have questions, but being interested and having questions and finding it intriguing that we're keeping Passover isn't enough for them to be invited to Passover. I personally don't believe anyone should come to your house at Passover because everyone has their own walk, and you don't know if this person really is an unclean person spiritually and they are deviant behind your back. Everyone's different behind closed doors. I think you should worry about your home, your family, and tidy it up. And stop trying to act like you saving other people, inviting people when you're actually, as it says, do not profane by giving sacred offerings. And the Passover lamb is a sacred offering, as I've been showing you line by line in the text. All right. So here goes for the worthy offerings here. So we read all the criteria about being a Levite, being the altar, the wood, the fire, all has to be set up by the Levites. It has to be in a place appointed by the Most High. All these requirements, you can't do it just outside. You have to bring it to the tabernacle, which you don't have today. Now we're going to read the requirements for the actual animal if you were going to butcher, because you have to butcher it. It can't be a slab of steak you bought from the store. So on top of all of the other stuff, we have to get this right for the exact type of upright offerings.
Then the Lord said to Moses, Speak to Aaron and his sons and all the Israelites, and tell them, Any man of the house of Israel or any foreign resident who presents a gift for a burnt offering to the Lord, whether to fulfill a vow or as a free will offering, must offer an unblemished male from the cattle, sheep, or goats, in order for it to be accepted on your behalf. You must not present anything with a defect, because it will not be accepted on your behalf.
Once again, well, we're just doing free will offerings. Yeah, let's read about free will offerings. It's like, guys, it doesn't matter. Oh my goodness, y'all, people say whatever they want. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. But there's nothing new under the sun, though. Any man of the house of Israel or any foreign resident, so people that are grafted in, who presents a gift for a burnt offering to the Adon, whether to fulfill a vow or as a free will offering. So we read earlier, vow, free will. I mean, all the offerings has to be presented the same way. Must offer an unblemished male from the cattle, sheep, or goats in order for it to be acceptable. You would have to have the animal. You would have to expect the animal. You would have to know how the animal was raised, all before you even use the meat to slaughter it for the sacrifice. Ain't nobody doing that. Ain't nobody doing that. Y'all are going and buying steak from the store. It's crazy. Too crazy to really think steak from the store touched by Babylonian hands, slaughtered in warehouses, is clean for the Most High. You should be ashamed of yourself for thinking that. Because it's organic? Because it's grass fed? Are y'all serious? Verse 21.
When a man presents a peace offering to the
Oh, I actually wanted to show the verse, last verse, talking about without blemish. I'll be showing comparisons to Exodus 12. Your lamb shall be without blemish, right? Everything with the Exodus Passover is synonymous with the priest's uh, offerings.
From the herd or flock, to fulfill a vow or as a free will offering, it must be without blemish or defect to be acceptable. You are not to present to the Lord any animal that is blind, injured, or maimed, or anything with a running sore, a festering rash, or a scab. You must not put any of these on the altar as an offering made by fire to the Lord.
Once again, how would you know about any of that if you didn't see the animal that was slaughtered? I mean, this is so easily basic. You can't make this up, though.
You may present as a free will offering an ox or sheep that has a deformed or stunted limb, but it is not acceptable in fulfillment of a vow.
So the only defect is a deformed or stunted limb, and that is for one offering, a free will offering. That's it. That's the only defect of any type of offering that is presented in uh, all of Leviticus.
You are not to present to the Lord an animal whose testicles are bruised, crushed, torn, or cut. You are not to sacrifice them in your land.
And remember, the Most High said he wouldn't accept the priest that way either, right? Remember, I was saying the consistency of the person doing the offering is consistent with the offering itself, unblemished, without these certain defects.
Neither you nor a foreigner shall present food to your God from any such animal. They will not be accepted on your behalf, because they are deformed and flawed. Then the Lord said to Moses, when an ox, a sheep, or a goat is born, it must remain with its mother for 7 days. From the 8th day on, it will be acceptable as an offering made by fire to the Lord. But you must not slaughter an ox or a sheep on the same day as its young. When you sacrifice a thank offering to the Lord, offer it so that it may be acceptable on your behalf. It must be eaten that same day. Do not leave any of it until morning.
Oh my goodness. Once again, the consistency with this Passover meal and a sacred meal for Levites or priests, Exodus 12:10. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. Ooh, I mean, really think about how sacred and important this Passover meal is. That's why I was like, I tell my ox, or my ox we there is one day a year that we are required to pretty much barbecue because in sacrifice is barbecue, and I mentioned this before. It is you're literally throwing meat on a grill outside, right? That's what the altar. That's what it is. Uh, so I tell my ox, man, like we all got to make sure we know how to barbecue because you want to make sure you barbecue your Passover lamb that is good. You know what you're doing. It tastes good. You can enjoy it. You're not stressing because if you don't know what you're doing, remember it's Passover. You can't go to the store and buy it. You got to do it yourself. So all of these things we wanted to just be prepared for. So if you don't know how to barbecue, you have time. Go out there, get some practice. Go to someone's house that know how to barbecue. So you know what you're doing because I've been there. If you don't know what you're doing on Passover, it's not fun. It takes away the fun part of it and the good part of it because you're stressing. Let's close out the chapter now.
I am the Lord. You are to keep my commandments and practice them. I am the Lord. You must not profane my holy name. I must be acknowledged as holy among the Israelites. I am the Lord who sanctifies you, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord.
All right. And the Most High talks about all of these sacrifices and the importance of these sacrifices being clean and separate from unclean. And it's right before we get into Leviticus 23, all the feast days, starting with the Sabbath to the 7 annual feast days throughout the year. And I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to give a reference. Numbers 28 and 29 go is all the sacrifices that goes with these feast days in Leviticus 23. Once again, Numbers 28 and 29, as we see right here, it has a reference right here of 28, Numbers 28. But Numbers 28 and 29 is all the sacrifices for the day by day, the feasts, the Sabbaths. And so just saying that makes sense why Leviticus 23, 22 is clarifying the appropriate way to sacrifice right before the feast days, which is a bunch of sacrifices, even more so on each of these days. All right. So just if you want to make a reference, Numbers 28 and 29 are the thorough instructions of the sacrifices upon these annual feast, Moedim, appointed times. All right. Without further ado, one of my favorite chapters of the book.
Leviticus 23. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites, and say to them, These are my appointed feasts, the feasts of the Lord that you are to proclaim as sacred assemblies. For 6 days work may be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of complete rest, a day of sacred assembly. You must not do any work. Wherever you live, it is a Sabbath to the Lord."
And if I look over here at the other translation, this is the Berean Study Bible. This is the KJV. We see that sacred assemblies is also holy convocations. And when we go to our graphic here, we see that this word, we're going to focus on the feast right here in the first one. These are my feasts. This word in Hebrew is important to know because you see this word moed in other places, and it really puts things into context what the Most High is saying, that these are appointed times. Appointments. You make an appointment with anyone in real time. What are you doing? You're saying we're both going to show up at this time in this place to do what we have agreed to do on this day. And that's exactly what Leviticus 23 is about. Leviticus 23 is saying the Most High is giving you days that He's going to be wanting you to participate in and show up because He's going to show up. And if you are His, then you will show up with Him, right? So every time we see the word feast here, we see the Hebrew word 4150, which is moed, appointed time. So let's just make that clear. That's what this is about. Continuing, we're going to focus on the other important word that is throughout the chapter of Leviticus 23, which is the sacred assembly or the holy convocation. Same word, which is a gathering of his people on these days, right? And I got it highlighted throughout the entire chapter. We see it here, verse 2, verse 3, verse 4, verse 7, 8, 21, 24, 27, 35, 36, and 37. It's mentioned all throughout Leviticus 23. So the very first one, we understand that these are appointments with our Heavenly Father. And each appointment comes with the criteria of a holy convocation. Okay? The Most High is going to show us a pattern, and He's going to give us these feast days according to Sabbaths. And these Sabbaths are marked by sacred assemblies that are called Moedims. And it starts off with the very first Sabbath, the 7-day Sabbath. So what I'm doing is showing you how it's being structured here. He tells us in verse 1, my appointed feasts, my Moedims. And then he gives the very first one, the 7-day Sabbath. So these are all going to give similar instructions. We'll see that Day of Atonement is a day that is separate from all the other days in the sense of these instructions, but they all have similar instructions because they all are Moedims, which are appointments that are sacred Sabbath assemblies. Every single one. And we start off with the original, the 7-day Sabbath. Verse 3. And in a nutshell, before we continue, I just wanted to give the Sabbath instructions. According to the Most High's calendar, we count daytime. We count light. Every single day is sunrise and sunset. So the Sabbath is the Sabbath of the Adon, which is he is Lord over the Sabbath and he is light. And the only time there is light, we call day, right? Sunrise to sunset. We shall be with the Father of lights. Then we have that it is a rest, a set apart gathering, sacred assembly, and that we shall do no work. We worship, no buy or sell, which is tied to work. No sex because it defiles us. It makes us unclean, which we have read multiple times in Leviticus, specifically right here, Leviticus 15:18. So we don't go to seek our own pleasure on his Sabbath day by doing these things that purposely will make us unclean. And Numbers 10:10, we blow the trumpets on his sacred solemn assemblies. And that's the first Moedim that we shall hold a sacred assembly that has the rules of no work, as it says here, no work, sacred assembly, and rest. And we'll see that that is consistent all the way through this chapter. Because the feast are Sabbaths when they are marked with holy convocations. Now we're getting into Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, verse 4.
These are the Lord's appointed feasts, the sacred assemblies you are to proclaim at their appointed times. The Passover to the Lord begins at twilight on the 14th day of the first month. On the 15th day of the same month begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the Lord. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you are to hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any regular work. For 7 days you are to present an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 7th day there shall be a sacred assembly. You must not do any regular work.
All right. Very straightforward. This for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 2 days that are Sabbaths, there are 2 days that are Sabbaths, not 7-day Sabbaths, but their own days that should be accounted as the same rules as a 7-day Sabbath. Right here, the verse 7, on the first day you shall hold a sacred assembly. That means it's marked by the same rules here of this Sabbath. And it tells us that they have the same rules. You are not to do any regular work. In a nutshell, the first day and on the 7th day, sacred assembly, you shall not do any regular work. And I was just going to reference Deuteronomy 16:1 through 8. There's quite a few times you could reference about unleavened bread. But observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Most High. For in the month of Abib, Haya the Elohim brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Most High the Elohim of the flock and the herd in the place which the Most High shall choose to place his name there. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread, and etc., etc. This is just a reference here. Like I said, many references for unleavened bread, though. But Deuteronomy 16:1 through 8. Just a reference going over that commandment as well. All right, Feast of Weeks.
And the Lord said to Moses, Speak.
Oh, what? Did I jump? Oh, I jumped. Oh, right here. My bad. Feast of First Fruits. Excuse me.
To the Israelites and say, when you enter the land that I am giving you, and you reap its harvest, you are to bring to the priest a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, so that it may be accepted on your behalf. The priest is to wave it on the day after the Sabbath. On the day you wave the sheaf, you shall offer a year-old lamb without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord, along with its grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, and its drink offering of a quarter hin of wine. You must not eat any bread or roasted or new grain until the very day you have brought this offering to your God. This is to be a permanent statute for the generations to come, wherever you live. From the day after the Sabbath, the day you brought the sheaf of the wave offering.
And so the timing of all of this, I go more into this. If you're more into the structure of the timing, it could be a lot to go over. I recommend watching the Path of Righteousness on my YouTube. I thoroughly break down the 50 days, show you on the calendar. Even though I'm going to give you a summary by the end of this chapter, but I'm just saying a thorough breakdown of all of this will be found in a different study. But the 50-day count starts the day after unleavened bread, which I go ahead and show here. Oops. All right, so the 7-day Sabbath, once again, if you want to understand why it starts on the third day, that's a whole nother study. But we count 7 days and it stays that count all year. Then we have Passover at evening of the 14th of the month of Abib, the first month of the year. And then we have unleavened bread. And then the 16th day of the month is the day that you count, which it says the day after the Sabbath day. As we see uh, right here. The priest is to wave it on the day after the Sabbath. On the day you wave the sheaf, you shall offer, and that day you wave the sheaf is the Sabbath of unleavened bread. Like I said, these sacred assemblies are Sabbaths, which is what's being referenced here. This Sabbath is the 15th. So the day after would be day 1. Count 50 will give us the 65th day of the year for Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, which is exactly where we're at now.
You are to count off 7 full weeks. You shall count off 50 days until the day after the 7th Sabbath, and then present an offering of new grain to the Lord. Bring 2 loaves of bread from your dwellings as a wave offering, each made from 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, baked with leaven, as the first fruits to the Lord. Along with the bread, you are to present 7 unblemished male lambs a year old, 1 young bull, and 2 rams. They will be a burnt offering to the Lord, together with their grain offerings and drink offerings, an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. You shall also prepare 1 male goat as a sin offering, and 2 male lambs a year old as a peace offering. The priest is to wave the lambs as a wave offering before the Lord, together with the bread of the first fruits. The bread and the 2 lambs shall be holy to the Lord for the priest. On that same day you are to proclaim a sacred assembly, and you must not do any regular work.
And there's that marking. This is what you look for him setting what are the annual feast. And I say that too because I didn't have my image for you that shows the annual feast, but there are some in like Judaism or whatnot will tell you that the annual feast will be Passover, and then it will say first fruits. One of the 7 annual will be first fruits in the week of unleavened bread. And excuse me, when we go to the holy convocations and the Sabbath that marks all the annual feasts, the first fruits of unleavened bread in the week of unleavened bread is not a Sabbath or sacred assembly. The day that they leave off is the eighth day, the last great day, as we see right here. And on the eighth day, ye shall have a holy convocation. If this is going over your head, I'll show you something at the very end. All right, so Passover, I did touch on it real quick, but I wanted to just a quick recap on all the feast days as we're going through it. So we did Passover, unleavened bread, no leaven in your homes for an entire week. Passover starts at the evening on the 14th of the first month. Passover is not for the stranger. Passover feast shall include lamb, bitter herbs, unleavened bread, wine. The first, which is the 15th day of unleavened bread, and the seventh day of unleavened bread, which is the 21st of the month of Abib, is a Sabbath. We shall have a feast. And on the 15th to 21st, you don't have to have like the Passover meal. It is no specific food required. The only requirement is that make sure there's no leaven there, right? No work. You can't buy or sell. Have a holy convocation. And then we give offerings, free will offerings by our mouth, um, by praise and discipline, right? And then now we just touched on Shavuot. Shavuot is about the harvest and many sacrifices and grain offerings on this time, but we are to have a Sabbath, which is the feast, no work, can't buy or sell, holy convocation, and we know we give spiritual offerings, right? And now we're going on to trumpets.
This is to be a permanent statute.
Oh,
Wherever you
verse 21, went a little too far.
live, for the generations to come. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and the foreign resident. I am the Lord your God. The Lord also said to Moses, Speak to the Israelites and say, On the first day of the seventh month, you are to have a day of rest, a sacred assembly announced by trumpet blasts. You must not do any regular work, but you are to present an offering made by fire to the Lord.
Feast of Trumpets is very short and sweet in here, but we see it gives all the criteria we're looking for: a day of rest, sacred assembly, no regular work. These are all signs of an annual Sabbath. And a reference is Psalms 81, 1 through 5. This chapter is 100% talking about the Feast of Trumpets. Sing aloud unto Elohim our strength. Make joyful noise unto Elohim of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel and the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the appointed time, the full moon, on our solemn feast day. For this was a statute for Yasharallah, a law for the Elohim of Yaakov. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. This story is the story that was, as it says, ordained, foreshadowing the coming of the Son of Man, or the second coming, I should say. Day of Atonement, already going to tell you, we already read Leviticus 16. Leviticus 16 is entirely about Day of Atonement. It's the story of the backstory to this. And then the backstory is in the book of Enoch that actually connects the fallen angels to the ritual story that they do for the Levites in Leviticus 16. And then once again, have a reference here, Numbers 29, Numbers 28, and Numbers 29, all more about the sacrifices and rituals done on these annual Sabbaths, Moedims, feast days. All right, but the Day of the Atonement is not a feast day. It's an appointed time for sure, but there's no feast happening on this day. Let's read.
Again the Lord said to Moses, The 10th day of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. You shall hold a sacred assembly and humble yourselves, and present an offering made by fire to the Lord. On this day you are not to do any work, for it is the Day of Atonement, when atonement is made for you before the Lord your God. If anyone does not humble himself on this day, he must be cut off from his people. I will destroy from among his people anyone who does any work on this day. You are not to do any work at all. This is a permanent statute for the generations to come, wherever you live. It will be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you shall humble yourselves. From the evening of the 9th day of the month until the following evening, you are to keep your Sabbath.
All right, so like I said in the beginning of this chapter, Day of Atonement is written different than any other feast. We see that this day focuses on humbling yourselves, which we see as fasting all throughout Scripture. And fasting and depriving yourself from things that are not needed in your life. Take it away on this day. Focus on Abba and ask for forgiveness from the Most High as you give forgiveness to others. And let's do a quick recap on the trumpets. Blow the trumpet or shofar, shout with praise at the sighting of the new moon and on the day of, right? It's the Sabbath, same thing. Have a feast, no work, can't buy or sell, holy convocation, and give spiritual offerings. Day of Atonement's quite a bit different. We afflict our soul. We humble our souls on this day, starting evening of the 9th till the evening of the 10th. The only day that is starts in evening the day before, because we're going from darkness into light on this day. Once again, it's the Sabbath, no work, can't buy or sell, and it's not a feast, more so a fast, as we still give spiritual sacrifices of praise in this time. All right, our last two tabernacles in that last great 8th day.
And the Lord said to Moses, Speak to the Israelites and say, On the 15th day of the 7th month, the Feast of Tabernacles to the Lord begins, and it continues for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a sacred assembly. You must not do any regular work. For 7 days you are to present an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 8th day you are to hold a sacred assembly and present an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. You must not do any regular work.
All right. I'm going to quick stop right here. We see that 7th month, 15th day of the month. Let's go to that real quick. So we have Shavuot, and then down here, we are in the 7th month, which is the first day of the 7th month is going to be the 178th day of the year. Then we have Day of Atonement, and then we have the 1st and the 8th. So remember, the 8th day isn't Sukkot. He clearly says Sukkot is 7 days. So Sukkot has one Sabbath in it, the first day. And then the 8th day also is a Sabbath, but it's like I said, it's the very next day after Sukkot, but it is not under the umbrella of Sukkot, as it does give the separation right here in Leviticus 23.
These are the Lord's.
I guess I could just reiterate here for you. We see the sacred assemblies, no do regular work. And we saw that on the first day and the 8th day, right?
Appointed feasts, which you are to proclaim as sacred assemblies for presenting offerings by fire to the Lord, burnt offerings and grain offerings, sacrifices and drink offerings, each on its designated day. These offerings are in addition to the offerings for the Lord's Sabbaths, and in addition to your gifts, to all your vow offerings, and to all the free will offerings you give to the Lord. On the 15th day of the 7th month, after you have gathered the produce of the land, you are to celebrate a feast to the Lord for 7 days. There shall be complete rest on the first day and also on the 8th day. On the first day you are to gather the fruit of majestic trees, the branches of palm trees, and the boughs of leafy trees and of willows of the brook. And you are to rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You are to celebrate this as a feast to the Lord for 7 days each year. This is a permanent statute for the generations to come. You are to celebrate it in the 7th month. You are to dwell in booths for 7 days. All the native born of Israel must dwell in booths, so that your descendants may know that I made the Israelites dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So Moses announced to the Israelites the appointed feasts of the Lord.
All right, and the last recaps here. Tabernacles, dwell in booths for 7 days. Which dwell doesn't mean you actually have to sleep in it. It means to go in it and sit down, relax, enjoy yourselves. First day of 7 is a Sabbath. Have a feast, no work, can't buy or sell, holy convocation. And 8th day is a Sabbath with the same criteria outside of the tabernacle booths. So this is the annual Shabbats because they're not just feast days, there are Shabbats. Now that's why I specify every time I go over these feast days. We have 2 weeks of things. We have the week of unleavened bread and the week of Sukkot. We just went over it. There's only Shabbats where it tells you there are Shabbats and sacred assemblies. We have the 1st and the 7th, the 15th and the 21st, and we have the 1st and the 8th, which actually already line up on the 7-day Sabbath anyway. So just take what the scripture gives you and keep it simple. Don't add to it. The other days you can go to work, simply put. It doesn't say you can't work on the other days within the week of unleavened bread that aren't Sabbaths, all right? And that concludes chapter 23. We're only going to go to verse 9 here, and we'll finish the rest of the book of Leviticus next week.
Leviticus 24. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites to bring you pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to keep the lamps burning continually. Outside the veil of the testimony in the tent of meeting, Aaron is to tend the lamps continually before the Lord, from evening until morning. This is to be a permanent statute for the generations to come. He shall tend the lamps on the pure gold lampstand before the Lord continually."
Continually, he says. Exodus 27, 20, and 21. And thou shalt command the children of Yasharah that they shall bring the pure olive beaten for the light to cause the lamp to burn always. In the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Most High. It shall be a statute forever unto the generations on the behalf of the children of Yasharah. And spiritually, these ordinances, these statutes, these regulations for the tabernacle is for spiritual purposes, representations. Proverbs 6:23, for the commandment is a lamp. Where's it at? There we go. There we go. The lamp, the aka menorah. All right. So the menorah represents the commandment. The law is light, which is funny because through these commandments, you have to keep the law to bring the lamp to light, right? The law tells you you have to bring the olive oil continually. You see, it's all connected there, right? You for all that to even happen together. So the commandment is a lamp, the law is light, and reproofs of instructions are the way of life. Amen. Last verse 5 through 9, last section here.
You are also to take fine flour and bake 12 loaves. using 2/10 of an ephah for each loaf, and set them in 2 rows, 6 per row, on the table of pure gold before the Lord. And you are to place pure frankincense near each row, so that it may serve as a memorial portion for the bread, an offering made by fire to the Lord. Every Sabbath day the bread is to be set out before the Lord on behalf of the Israelites as a permanent covenant. It belongs to Aaron and his sons, who are to eat it in a holy place, for it is to him a most holy part of the offerings made by fire to the Lord, his portion forever.
All right, so not just the meat, right? The bread and even the free will offering, the first fruits offerings, they go to the Levites. And just to bring up this story, we see that the bread, the Sabbath day, the bread is to be set out before the Lord, and then the Aaron and his sons can eat the bread that was already there, right? Brings us to the story in First Samuel with David. 1 Samuel 21, 1 through 6. Then came David to Nob to Ahimelech, the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David and said unto him, Why art thou alone and no man with thee? And David said unto Ahimelech, The king has commanded me a business and has said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee and what I've commanded thee. And I have appointed my servants to such and such place. Now, therefore, what is under thy hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, and what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under my hand, but there is hallowed bread, the showbread. And if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. So went over that is what we just talked about the Sabbath day, because obviously he's talking about sexual relations with a woman will make you unclean. And he's all like, this is holy bread. For me to even think about giving it to you, you at least got to be meet some basic criterias of cleanliness, right? And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are hollow, and the bread is in a manner of common. Yea, thou it though it was sanctified this day in the vessel. So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread that was taken from before the Most High to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. So, interesting story with David and the showbread that Mashiach talks about as well. And interesting enough, Mashiach brings up this story when the Pharisees approached him about the Sabbath day. And it sounds like this is the day that they took the showbread, as it says right here. Um, that was taken before the Most High. And we just read in Leviticus 24 that every Sabbath day the bread is to be set out before the Adon on behalf of the Israelites. And the other bread belongs to Aaron and his sons, the hollow show bread. So it sounds like this happened on the Sabbath day. Just want to say that. It really do. It doesn't straight up say it, but Mashiach using this story in Matthew about comment about the Sabbath day, and then the fact that the bread becomes available to consume when it is replaced every Sabbath day, and that's the day. Obviously, the bread was still there to be able to be consumed, and just an interesting story. Just cross referencing and using context clues based on the Torah. And with all that being said, this is the completion of week 31 Torah portion, Leviticus 21, verse 1 through 24, verse 9. Tawada, thank y'all for joining me. We will be completing the book of Leviticus. Already about to be through 3 of the 5 books of the Torah, just like that. Books that we all struggle to read and get through once upon a time. Now we're gleaning wisdom from every Shabbat as we are commanded to do, to gather and to grow. Shabbat Shalom, Yasharallah. I pray Haya, speed to each and every one of you. Shalom.